What's up, everybody? I want to formally welcome you to the first ever episode of Set Point Sessions with the Bash Bros. This is awesome. I'm super excited for it. My name's Austin Davids. I am a mental performance coach. I'm a former athlete, and I'm the founder of Set Point Mental Edge. I am joined today and hopefully every day by my boss, my co host, and most importantly, my brother, Andrew Davids.
Hey guys, what's up? Super excited to be here with Austin at Set Point Mental Edge. Can't wait to shoot the breeze and talk about all things tennis, mental performance, sports psychology, and maybe a little bit of life in between. So super excited to be here.
Right on. Andrew's incredible. Like I said, he's my older brother. And I'm super excited that he's here to kind of talk things out with me. Um, this right here is going to be kind of our introductory podcast. I'm going to ask Andrew a couple questions. Hopefully, Andrew's going to ask me a couple questions. We're just going to kind of get to know what makes each other tick as coaches, as former athletes. Just kind of the whole shebang as brothers and as coaches. So. Without further ado, I'm gonna lead it off here with Andrew, um, and I'm gonna ask you just kind of introduce us to you. For those of you who don't know Andrew, um, I just want him to kind of um, tell you guys about himself and kind of his background in tennis.
Yeah, so as far as my background in tennis goes, I started playing when I was a young kid. When people ask me how long I've been playing tennis, that was kind of the common question when we were growing up. Hey, how long have you been playing tennis? Um, I told them that I don't remember when I started playing because I've had a racket in my hand and been around a tennis court for that long. It's just kind of been something that Austin and we both grew up with it. Our dad was a coach. We've been players since we were kids. Um, you know, played all through elementary school. I remember doing a how-to speech in fifth grade on how to serve in tennis, and nobody knew what I was talking about because nobody knew what tennis was at the time. But like it's been that much of a part of our lives. I played in high school, 4 years at Topeka West High School. Went on to play college tennis at Emporia State for 4 years after that. I was an assistant coach at Arc City High School for 2 years after I graduated from college, and then moved up to Kansas City. And I have been the head boys and girls tennis coach at Olathe South High School for this is my ninth year at Olathe South. So um, trying to continue to build a program. Going through the ups and downs of high school sports is always a good challenge for us, and so I'm happy to take this next step and kind of dive into the podcasting world. I'm excited to see where we can go. It's
That's
awesome. Tell me
awesome.
about
That's
you.
awesome. Yeah, kind of pretty much the same exact thing. Like a lot of these things that you and I have going on are very similar, just kind of because we grew up around it and dad and mom and everything like that. But um, I started playing when I was about five, sometime around then. Some of my earliest memories, and you can attest to this, is getting picked up from school and we stopped by the gas station. Dad would always
Yeah.
buy us a snack and a drink and we would go to the courts and just either sit and do homework while dad ran practice, or we'd go out and hit on the wall or hit with each other, right?
Yeah.
Just things like that at the in the moment it didn't really seem that big, but like now that I'm older and I think about my history in the sport, that's what I think about. That's kind of what started us out. I too played tennis in high school. You and I were doubles partners for 2 years, doubles for 2 years, and then I played 2 years of singles. Um, Four-time regional champion. I like to hold that over you because you're not a four-time regional champion. You do have a lot over me. I'll say that, but four-time state placer, pretty good high school career. I owe half of that to you, but only half. And then I went and played. I played in college. I was on the team. Um, we'll talk a little bit more at some point about that whole process, but I had knee surgery right around sophomore year, I think, and it kind of just set me behind. I like to say, and I just never played collegiate tennis again after that. Um, when I left college, I moved to Kansas City, and I started coaching kind of at the club level. If you're in Kansas City, the Genesis Health Clubs, the kind of the pro aspect of tennis coaching. Um, and then I honestly don't remember. Some way, somehow, I think you moved into town and you had a opening for an assistant spot. And I just like that relationship that you and I have that we have had. Um, I couldn't pass it up. Like that's kind of like a once in a lifetime thing.
Yeah.
Um, and so having that opportunity, I obviously said yes. And I kind of, I did that for a couple years. I left to go into a different industry and do different things. But like all good things, it kind of has a way of pulling you back. So,
You know,
obviously you and I are back coaching together.
thinking about it,
Go
sorry,
ahead, go ahead.
interrupting you, but thinking about it, you had stopped coaching at Genesis and gotten involved at one of the high schools coaching golf, I think,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it
And
was Blue
then
Valley Southwest.
okay, and then you and I we moved up here, my wife and I got the head coaching job and needed an assistant, and that's what it
Yep.
was, and you were able to
Yeah.
take over. Yeah,
That golf coaching gig, dude, I swear to you, was the most fun
gotta
I've ever
be
had.
gotta be the
JV,
easiest high school coaching gig I feel like is assistant golf coach.
I'm not kidding. I would go out and play 9 holes. And mind you, I haven't touched a golf club at this point in literal years. Like, I probably touched a golf club twice before I got this job in
Yeah,
my entire
yeah.
lifetime. And they needed somebody who didn't have a DUI. They said it was between me and another dude. And they said, "You got the job." I said, "Well, why me? I know nothing about golf." And they said, "Well, the other guy had a DUI and he couldn't drive the van." I, hey, hey, like I'll take it as
There you
it is
go.
what it is. That's
Whatever,
fine.
whatever
But
gets me the job.
exactly, that kind of put my foot in the door, though. I remember getting that job to get into high school athletics, and get into coaching and stuff like that. So without that, I obviously don't know where I'd be, but everything kind of has a way of playing out and working out for the best. So I'm happy with where I'm at, and I'm happy with where we are coaching together. Like you said, building a program and doing something with it, putting a name out there for Olathe South Tennis. I think we've done a good job so far, and I look forward to what we can build in the future.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, speaking of coaching, you've done it for a couple of years. You've done it a long time. What made you initially want to get into coaching? Like, was it early in your playing days? Was it kind of like when did you figure out that's what you wanted to do?
Um, that's a good question. I think when I figured out that I really wanted to was probably sometime in my college playing days. Um, like most college students do, I had a major change. End of my freshman, beginning of my sophomore year of college, and kind of figured out that I wanted to be a high school teacher after school was done, and for my career. And obviously, as a high school teacher, you have the opportunity to get involved in high school coaching as well. And so, with the experience of having my own dad as our coach and kind of knowing kind of the ins and outs of what that high school coaching looked like, it was kind of a natural, yeah, this is what I should do. Um, my first experience, my first real experience with coaching, was I was still in high school. Our club coach had an opportunity to coach and kind of supervise some of the junior team tennis stuff, for like some of the middle schoolers. And so it was actually, I was one of the assistants as a high schooler. One of dad's former players, and I think she was playing in college at the time, was kind of in charge of it, and I was kind of learning
Yeah.
under her. Um, and I was like super nervous because I'm just in high school coaching these kids that are just a couple of years younger than me, and like, what if I say something wrong, kind of thing. Um, but it was like that was my first real step into the coaching world, um, and I loved it, and I ran with it and learned a lot in those first couple of summers doing junior team tennis. Um, and then I had the opportunity to be a camp counselor at the Emporia State tennis camps for a couple of years, um, and I had made some connections through the high school playing days of knowing some opposing coaches, and um, as my when I started my student teaching, towards the end of my college, I was able to get involved at the Arc City high school tennis teams because that's where I was student teaching at. Um, and then that's kind of all she wrote. It's been a huge part of my life ever since. So yeah,
Yeah.
I want to know a little bit about you and how you got involved into the set point. Like what I want to know the origin story for Set Point Mental Edge. Where did this all start and where did it come from?
It goes back a long, long time. Like it's kind of just been uh, a, a good thing coming, so to speak. Everything that kind of my life has been since I was a kid and young in tennis has kind of led me to this point. We had a coach growing up, and we've talked about this multiple times, who they like, and it wasn't just one, there was a couple of them that really seemed to value the mental side of tennis and the breathing and the confidence in yourself and the positive self-talk and all these things. And um, I think that's what separated us and the people we played with growing up from everybody else, was just kind of the focus on that.
Hmm.
Um, and so, like I said, I went to college, and there was just some choices that I made that weren't that great. I was kind of lost and looking for direction in life, I guess. And that's when I moved to Kansas City to coach at the club level. Um, and I went a couple years without being passionate about anything. I just couldn't find anything that just like made me happy with what I was doing and feel like I'm helping other people, which is a huge thing for me. I love to help people. Um, and I think honestly, I think it was mom. I could be completely wrong, but I remember a conversation with somebody and they said, "Have you ever thought about sports psychology?" Like out of the blue. And I probably had a million conversations with mom and dad about, I don't know what I'm doing, and
Yeah.
I'm just kind of doing until I find something. Um, but I remember looking into it and being like, God, I work such a busy schedule. I can't do much. I have to find an online course. And I found one through Grand Canyon University, and immediately just loved it. Everything that I was learning was like applicable to everything that I was doing with coaching and stuff. And I could see that I could make a difference in people's lives if I continued to pursue that. Um, so I graduated, and I had this goal of, working with individual athletes, high level, collegiate level, professional level, whatever. Um, but I didn't know where to begin. I didn't know where to start. So once I graduated, I kind of just decided one day. I remember talking to my wife about it and just being like, I want to do this. Like, and I don't care what it takes. I'm just going to kind of make this brand and have this vision, and I'm just going to kind of figure it out from there. The name took me God, it took me so long to come up with. Um, I'm normally a very creative person, but when it like I have to be, it's very difficult. So I'm thinking like, what do I want to do? Do I want to be tennis centered? Do I want to be, like cliche? I didn't really know what to do. Um, but there's a lot of things that go into set point. Just the name in general, like set point is a tennis term. And it's not match point. Match point is the end of something. Set
Yeah.
point can be the middle of something. Set point can be, in tennis terms, you win the set, but you're not done. You still have work to do, right? And that kind of stood out to me as like what I want to preach, what I want to do. Yeah, you've done work and you're at a point, but you've got work to do still. And that's
Hmm.
where I want to come in, is at the set point, and kind of help out.
I really
If
like
you
that.
look at my,
I never thought about it that way, but I like that.
yeah,
That you're, and it could be in terms of tennis. Maybe you're down a set, and that set point is
yeah,
bringing it back to even. And yeah, I like the fact that it's not going to be your next step isn't going to finish the job. Your next
yep,
step is going to continue on. You've got more work to do. It's a whole
exactly.
process. I like that.
And most of the athletes that come to me are ones who are down, right? Like you
Hmm.
just said, like you're down a set and you got to build it back up. They're people who are fighting through injuries, fighting through like, confidence issues, like all these different things that they recognize that they're down and they're trying to make a change.
Hmm.
And I think that kind of just embodies everything. If you look at my logo, look, dude, great marketing. I
Yeah.
have it on here. The ETP is in blue. My color is obviously blue and yellow. and I kind of honestly, you and I have talked about this. I got this from you,
Yeah.
and I think we can talk about it at a different point because I know it's very dear to you. But ETP stands for Embrace the Process,
Yeah.
um, which we'll cover this on a different podcast.
Yeah.
But it means a lot to you, and because it means a lot to you, it means a lot to me. And so that's kind of the basis of it is just it, and it just kind of worked. I had the name and I was like, ETP, that's in
ETP
there.
right there.
Like
It's right in the name.
that's kind of just how it happened and where it went. But as a basis, I've seen how much mental performance can impact an athlete's performance,
Yeah.
impact their game. Um, and I've seen really good athletes hinder their potential
Mm.
because they don't know the mental side and how
Yeah.
to navigate that. Um, and every time, dude, I swear, every time in years past where I see somebody struggling, I think I want to help them. I have tools, I have things that
Yeah.
that could help them, but they like, you know, and now I'm finally being able to do that. So that's kind of where it came from. Obviously, it's still very small and still a tiny little thing, but I'm hoping that it grows. And I actually got my third client the other day,
Hey,
which I
let's
was really
go.
excited about. You know, we're getting calls in and we're doing things. So um, upward and onward from here, I
That's
guess.
right. Absolutely.
Yeah,
We can only get bigger.
um, that's right. Well, it could get smaller.
Well, yeah.
I could have people say, "Yeah, yeah, I'm out of here," but hopefully that doesn't happen. That would be ideal. Um, Talking about like some of the mental sides of things as coaches, like you get it, I get it. Hopefully, other people get it. Um, there's two questions I want to ask, but one of the we'll do one of them right now. What is a moment that you saw either as a player or a coach where you saw the mental side of the game really make an impact? It can be in tennis, it can be at a football, any sort of sport that you've seen where like a mental aspect of it really changed the trajectory of the match of the
Yeah.
game.
Um, Obviously, I'm going to stick in the tennis world. That's just kind of where I have the most hands-on and most direct experience. And I'm going to tell you two stories. And you've, I think, actually been a part of both of these stories
Oh
as
God.
as my assistant coach. And I'm not going to mention any names. We're going to keep things anonymous. But one of the stories was a player who was fairly mentally weak, and that very negatively impacted his performance. And then a different player that was um, very mentally strong and had a very positive impact on his performance. Back several years ago, in the first few years of my high school coaching, my head coaching experience at Olathe South, um, we had a doubles team who was a pretty competitive, pretty fiery doubles team, um, and I think they ended up in the top. They were state medalists. I can't remember exactly what they placed, um, but one of the players really struggled with his emotions, and getting frustrated and not being able to kind of let go of his past mistakes. And he would dwell on it and have outbursts, whether it was vocal screaming outbursts or hitting a ball into the fence or um, he there was just a lot of struggle with that negativity. And especially in doubles, you kind of know the ins and outs and the communication piece in doubles and the cooperation that goes on between two separate people. Um, but when one person really struggles with that frustration and you shut that wall off between you and your partner, it really hurts your partner as well. And
Hmm.
when
Absolutely.
communication stops, um, the performance just declines. And so I don't want to say that I think that this team underperformed as a doubles team because they were really successful, in the grand scheme of things. But I can't help but wonder sometimes if there was a little bit more emphasis. And this was kind of back before I, as a head coach, really started bringing some of these mental tools into our daily coaching routine. And so sometimes I think back and wonder what could have been different. How could we have changed things and made that doubles team maybe a little bit more competitive. Um, or,
Yeah.
or at least been able to, handle some of those negative emotions a little bit better. Um, and hey, both of those players went on to play college tennis. Um, like both of them are coaching at the next level,
Coaching.
whether it's club coaching or college coaching, high school coaching,
Yeah.
whatever. They're both still doing it. So they're both high level players. They both know the game really well. Um, and and I think probably they both matured after their high school seasons and after their high school careers were done. That happens a lot. We see that, I think, in sports all over the place where, that 15, 16, 17-year-old brain just isn't quite developed enough to understand things and
Yeah.
probably not quite mature enough to have a full comprehension of the importance of the mental side. Um, and it could just be not being aware enough of the mental side, and so I think what you're doing is fantastic. um, I hope and I wish that more high school programs, whether it's tennis programs or other sports, um, like they need to have their athletes on a mental training regimen. The weight room is a big thing in high school athletics right now. People are putting a whole lot of funds and money into getting a fantastic state of the art weight room. Working your body out is one thing, but you got to work out your mind too. And you
Yep.
got to put in those
Absolutely.
mental reps are just as important as the physical reps. And so I think that's
That's
one thing that I want to see more of in high school sports is the mental practice and the mental performance as opposed to just the physical stuff. So
that's one of my favorite terms is mental reps, right? Because when you think of a rep, you think of like lifting a bar up and down however many times it is, but the mental reps is just practicing the thought processes and the tools that you have consistently.
yeah,
We'll talk about this on other episodes, but just about different tools and everything. But it's the doing it consistently and
yeah.
doing it over and over again. That's what a rep is, over and over again. I love what you mentioned about those two stories. Like, and I know exactly what you're talking about for both of them.
Well, that was
And
only
I
one
think the
story, buddy.
key.
That was only one
Oh,
story.
that was only once.
I got
Well,
another one.
all right, go ahead.
Oh, right now? All right.
Or you want to wait? We can wait.
I don't care. So, second story
Shoot
was
it. Go.
more recent.
Yeah, go for it. I think I
This
know exactly which story you're talking
I bet you
about.
do. Um,
Yeah.
we had a player. This one was a singles player, who also another really high level player, um, had a couple of matches during the regular season against this player that he knew from club tennis. Um, and this kid from club tennis has a bit of a reputation of playing some mind games in the middle of matches, kind of acting a fool a little bit on the tennis court and trying to get into the head of his opponents. And that honestly, that's part of sports. That's part of tennis, especially. Um, and it sucks that that's an aspect of the game that kids have to deal with, but it's just part of it. Um, and so the first match of the season, our player lost. Yeah, I think it was like an 8-4 match. We lost it, maybe 8-3. Fairly competitive, high level tennis, but we just weren't winning the big points. There wasn't a whole lot of antics coming from the other side of the net just because it wasn't a super close match as far as the score is concerned. Um, and so it's kind of subdued. It wasn't a loud spectacle type of thing. Um, the second match was the league championship match. And mind you, for those that maybe don't know about the Sunflower League, in my opinion, as a head coach in the Sunflower League, I think that um, the Sunflower League in Kansas is probably the most competitive league as far as tennis is concerned, statewide. And I would put the Sunflower League up against any other league, any other sport, and I would say it's one of the top two or three competitive leagues, any sport, any classification across the state of Kansas. Lots of really good talent, in the Sunflower in this Kansas City metro area. So the Sunflower League championship is a big deal, and our player had actually won the Sunflower League championship the previous year and was trying to defend his title. So that puts a little bit of extra pressure on him. Um, there was a bit of a unique challenge and a unique situation as the match rolls on. Our player gets up. I think it was 4-1, something like that, in the middle of the match, and rain comes in, and there's a rain delay. And this is at the end of the day. There's no hope of drying off the courts and finishing the match in the same day. We're gonna have to come back on a different day. Um, and we ended up coming back for this match, I believe originally played on a Thursday, maybe even a Friday. I don't remember what the
I think it
original
was
was.
Thursday because the kid you're talking about had a
Couldn't
tournament
play
over the
Friday.
weekend.
Couldn't play Friday.
Yeah, and couldn't play Friday, so they had to. Yeah,
So we scheduled the makeup, or the continuation of the match was on Monday, and so we had a 3 day delay between being up 4-1 in a championship match, and
yeah,
then having to come back and try and finish it against this kid
which is
who,
crazy.
I know,
That's like a long
it's a long
time.
time to think about things and
Yeah,
have that kind of that weighing on your mind.
and your momentum doesn't carry over.
Yeah, everything starts
Whatever
fresh.
momentum you had going into it is gone.
Yep,
It's
you got a brand new warm up for the middle of the match on a
hmm
day on a different week. Um, and so as we get into the continuation of the match, we're up 4-1 to start it, and the match goes on, and we get to 6-all, playing first to 8, 6-all, um, and the opposing player makes a blatant cheat on a line call, on a big point, 6-all, and our player knew it. Everybody in the stands that was watching the match knew it. But the thing with tennis is that it's a gentleman's sport. It's an honor system, right? Like, I'm in charge of calling your shots in or out, and there's nothing you can do about it except say, "Are you sure?" Like, I thought that ball was in, and if I say no, then there's nothing you can do about it. And so our
nothing.
player um, was pretty frustrated with that call. Those are kind of the kinds of antics that this player is kind of known for, trying to get into the head of his opponents. Um, we ended up losing that match in a tiebreaker in the Sunflower League Championship match. Lost it in a tiebreaker, and we're pretty frustrated just kind of with how things turned out. Not necessarily frustrated with the loss, but frustrated with how the loss happened. Um, then fast forward a couple weeks, we're preparing for the state tournament. And in Kansas, the state tournament bracket gets made the week before the state tournament happens. And so you kind of go into the tournament with an understanding of who you might match up with, where the bracket's going to play out, and all of that. And so it turned out that these two players are probably going to have a rematch, a third match in the season. And the spot in the bracket that's going to happen in is the quarterfinals. Winner goes to the semis. Loser has to go battle through the backside and can get fifth place at best. Um, and so this is where the mental side really comes into play. We sat down almost every day after we knew what that bracket looked like, and we said, all right, what are we going to do? How are we going to handle this match? Not just tactics, or sorry, not just the strategies of things, but like, what are we doing mentally? How are we going to stay at a consistent mental level? Because we know that this kid's going to be like this. He's going to be up high on the shots that he thinks are big points and big shots for him, and he's going to throw a fit and be down big and have those negative outbursts as well. And so after having an 8-3, I think it was an 8-3 loss the first time, and then a tough tiebreaker loss in the rematch. And then, kind of having a week long of preparation, kind of knowing what we're going to get into, we dominated that match and we won 6-1, 6-1. Like,
That's
there
this is
there
insane.
wasn't even a doubt in my mind, in my player's mind, and probably not in a lot of the people that were watching.
Yep.
There was no doubt in their mind who was winning that match. Another thing that's really interesting about that match is the conditions that was played in. It was super windy that day. And if you've played any sort of outdoor sport, you know how much those outside conditions can play a factor in the outcome. Um, and wind in tennis is a huge thing that players have to deal with a lot. Um, and our player was just rock solid. There was no negativity. There was his ability to handle the wind was fantastic. He was able to change things from one end of the court to the other, um, and solid, super rock solid mentally, and just like we expected, there was a roller coaster from the other side of the net. We stayed super solid, super calm, and focused on what we needed to do, what my player needed to do, every point. And that he left no doubt. It was one of the most impressive matches that I've seen as a high school coach, especially knowing the history of the two
Yeah.
players from the season. Yeah, so like that's the second story, the positive impact of being able to handle the mental side and what that can do good for a player.
One of the I remember this, like I remember like it was yesterday. The we talk about with our players keeping your roller coaster boring, right? You're talking
Yeah.
about this player who's going like this up and down. If you're looking at that like a roller coaster, that's a pretty fun roller coaster to be on.
Yeah.
Probably not a fun roller coaster from the outside, but you're up and down. But if you keep your roller coaster boring like our player did, right? And you're just
Mhm.
here and you can stay level no matter where the other person is incredibly important. The other thing that really stood out to me knowing that story is um the preparation for it,
Yeah.
right? Like you said, you talked every day after practice, you talked every day at practice. This is what's going to happen. How are you going to handle it? This is how you're going to handle it, right? Asking, let the player figure it out on their own, and also give them the tips and the tools that they need to be successful, and doing it consistently, right? If this was a conversation you had with our player right before the match, or when they figure out that this is a matchup that's actually going to happen, it's probably a whole different story. But you, being the great coach you are, prepared him for that leading up to it, right? And I think that's incredibly important for any coach to hear is, you know, you have to be prepared for all situations and for things that are going to happen. And you might not know what's going to happen, but you kind of have to be prepared for everything. And you have to start that preparation early. I remember telling you, I think it was kind of the same concept of these matches of don't feel like what you tell your athletes doesn't get through to
Yeah.
them. Don't feel like what you say doesn't make a difference because in the moment when you're saying it and something might not work out, sure, but like down the line, it's gonna pay off and it's gonna hit home for them. And I think in that match especially, I think it really hit home and our player could see what happens when you do what you've been working on and when you do the important things. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah, that's incredible. Those are great stories. Um, I think unless you have anything, we'll call
I've
it
got
good
one for
until our
you.
next one.
I've got one for you, and maybe you can answer this
Okay.
a little bit quicker. Sorry if we're gonna go long on our first episode.
No, 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 probably not because I like to talk.
Okay. Um, I think uh, we talk in the in our player meetings and our preseason parent meeting and things like that about the values of our Falcon tennis program at Olathe South. Um, you kind of have a different maybe like a different approach maybe or a different kind of setup being like an on your own thing. You're not associated with a school for the set point mental edge performance coaching, right? um, what are some things, some values or some of the main takeaway points that you want your athletes to take away from working with you?
That's a really good question. And I think honestly, the general answer is that it's going to vary for each athlete, um, based on what they want to get out of it. If it's somebody who wants to improve their confidence, then obviously I want them to get confidence out of it, right? But as a whole, I want them to have skills that not only make them better on the field or the court, but that make them better humans and that like, can lead them somewhere in life. Um, because I think anything athletic can be applied into your real life.
Yeah.
Any sort of hard work, work ethic, any sort of sportsmanship, any sort of respect for the game or for other people, right,
Yep.
can go a really long ways, just in life when you're working a full-time job, when you have a family, when you're, associating with your family. Like these are all things that are huge. And the athletes I work with are mostly, well, right now they're all high school, right? Maybe some in a little bit in the college world, but um, that's when people are figuring things out, and that's when these skill sets really come into play. And so it's not so much about winning championships or winning state titles or anything like that. Like that's great and all, and success on the field and whatever is good, and we want that.
Right.
But I tell my athletes all the time, and you've heard me say this multiple times, I don't judge success on wins and losses.
Yeah.
I've been there, I've done that where it's like, I lost, it's bad. It's about the journey and it's about the things that you take from the losses or the bad times. And that sounds so cliche, but I like it's true
Yeah.
in the sense that um, you say at the beginning at the parent meeting and stuff, if you can walk off that court and tell me that you gave your full effort and that you tried and that you maybe learned something new, like as a coach, that makes us happy and that like encouraging for
Yeah.
us.
Yep.
But if you walk off and you say I lost and you're mad about that just because you lost, then there's a different conversation to have there. um, but I think that athletes can get a lot of things from athletics, and it's not my job to teach them and force that upon them, but it's my job to kind of open their eyes and give them the tools and the tricks they need
Yeah.
to learn those things on their own. You probably see this as a teacher, like you can't force somebody to learn,
Mm.
but you can you can open their eyes to like what there is to learn and make them interested in learning that and putting it into practice.
Yeah.
Um,
I
if
think
that makes sense, like as a science teacher.
that's the biggest thing is getting your student, whether I'm a teacher or your student as a coach to the athlete, like get them interested in learning the next thing,
Yeah.
right? Like,
There's always something new. There's
yeah,
always another thing. There's never like, and with set point, there's always something forward.
there's the
There's always
next,
something
yeah,
ahead of you. And if you're burnt out or you're tired and you're just like, you don't have any care to learn the next thing, you're not going to expand yourself and
yeah,
you're not going to make yourself a better person or a better athlete, or a better student, even, right? You have to have that desire to be like, I just climbed this mountain that I never thought I could climb and I
hmm,
conquered it. But now there's one in front of me that's
look at
even
that other
bigger. And
mountain.
yeah,
Yeah,
and now I'm gonna climb. I'm gonna knock that one out of here. And you just keep climbing mountains until you know it, there's there's never gonna be not a mountain to climb, but just continuing and stacking days and stacking lessons on top of each other
yeah.
to make yourself better. That's a very long answer for a short question, but
No, I love it.
um,
That's a great answer though.
it's kind of tough to answer. There's just so much knowledge I want to give these people,
Yeah.
give these athletes.
I think it's like you said, it's all about that want to, right?
Yeah,
As a teacher, I can sit up and lecture at the whiteboard for hours, right? But if my students don't want to learn it, they're not gonna. If they don't see the importance of it,
yep,
they're not gonna learn it. And
yep,
the same thing goes with a tennis coach teaching a tennis player, or like you are a mental coach teaching these athletes. Um, they have to want it, and because they want it, they can listen to you and the wisdom and the advice that you give, the tools that you provide to them, and then they have to be able to go and use them on their own. So I think that's a great answer.
yeah. The what we're learning in the class that I'm in for my master's program is um, essentially it's learning the proper way to teach things that people will want to learn
Mm,
them. So like you're kind of saying, it's one thing to know your topic. But if you don't know how to deliver your topic to
yeah,
somebody and make them want to learn more and be excited about it, um, I think that's where there's a disconnect in a lot of coaches, probably a lot of teachers
yeah,
too. It's just like, this
definitely.
is my job. I get paid to do this. And I know what I'm talking about. I have this PhD in math or whatever it is.
Yeah,
But like, are you really getting your students and your athletes excited and passionate about bettering themselves and learning something new? And then oh, what's next? What's behind this door? And
Mhm.
you know, I think that
Just
more coaches need to learn that.
yeah, just because you know a lot of stuff doesn't mean you're gonna be a good teacher or a good coach. Like you got,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And I think like uh, I think Dad really did a good job of this
yeah,
because he connected with his athletes and his students, and everybody loved Mr. Davidson. He was
yeah,
their favorite teacher, and he's their favorite coach, right? Um, and so I think that's where we pick it up from is we've just been surrounded by it, and
yeah,
we know like, and it comes, it's an innate ability to
yeah,
use a big word. It's just natural, but it's also learned. It's or learned. I don't know. I've heard it
yeah,
both ways.
yeah.
It's a skill set that we've picked up from the people that we've been around. So to kind of segue there, Dad said that he would
Let's
wanna be in
go.
on this thing, and so maybe next week, maybe the week after, maybe who knows how long it's going to take to get Papa
Yeah,
Davids in here.
yeah. The OG Coach
But
Davids.
the OG, and I'm so excited because I'm gonna have this whole list of questions asked. This might be a 2 hour
Yeah.
episode, just of just like firing at Dad, asking
Clear,
him all these
clear your
questions.
evening, Dad. Let's do it.
Yes, 4 o'clock to 10 o'clock,
That's
six
right.
hours of questions. It's gonna be a blast, and I'm excited to not just him, but hopefully some other people, some other coaches. You and I have talked about former athletes coming on here and
Yeah.
hopefully sharing their experience. But I just hope if anybody listens to this, who knows? It might be two people, it might be nobody. But
It might just be me and you. Who knows?
dude, I don't know if I can see the numbers when I post this, but if I can, I'll definitely let you know. I wouldn't be surprised if it's just like mom listening,
Yep, yep.
dad listening.
Mom will listen a couple times probably.
Sh- She'll put it on repeat on her Spotify or in her car or something. She'll just listen to it over and over again. We'll have 1,000 views, and 999 of them will be from mom. That's just the person she is. We love her and
love,
we
love you,
appreciate her
Mom.
support
You're the best.
so much, so much. If that's all you got, that's all I got. Like I said, I'm really excited for this. Sometimes if you can't do this, it'll just be me. We'll figure this out. It'll be
Yeah,
kind of a learning journey process. But just like every good thing in life, that's exactly what it is. So
yeah.
um,
I'm
I
excited.
appreciate your time.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. I've when you threw the idea to me, I was super excited about it and glad that we're doing it and making it happen.
Good, good. Well, let's keep it up, and I will talk to you. I will see you on the next episode of
Yeah.
Set Point Sessions.
Episode
How
2,
about
Set
it?
Point Sessions. Let's
Let's
go.
go! Bang bang.